Do, 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 do. Well, hello, everyone. How are you doing? Good to see you. Friday, everyone, we made it. Yeah, hell of a reality where you look forward to getting off the one day, Friday, and then you have the 2 days. I don't know. So, hello, Karen. How are you doing? Welcome, everyone. Good to see you. None of your business. I love that. How are you doing, Miles? Good to see you. Well, so it's Friday, and are we living in chaos? That's my question. I think we are, and I think it's getting worse. Last night on my radio show, I talked about some rumors going around Washington, D.C. of, well, secret societies we've known, but these are apparently some new, I don't know if you want to call them clubs. I could use the word cult, but that would may be too harsh or not harsh enough. So we've known about secret societies. Time magazine, I guess this has been put out about 2.5 years ago, did a great little expose on the history of secret societies. We all know that, George W. was part of Skull and Bones, just like Kerry and quite a few that held high offices in our government. And part of the problem they have today with the power structure in Washington, D.C. is that an outsider has gotten power. And apparently that is becoming, how shall we say, so mind consuming that, and we could call it hate, definitely negative energy, against an individual, that reports are going around that there are groups, politicians, people in government invoking ancient deities. Yeah. Now, I'm trying to find this out. It's very difficult because the Park Service won't talk about it. Graffiti tagging was never a problem per se, unless it was a protest on national monuments. But there are rumors that there have been symbols that have been put on certain national monuments that, well, are not your normal nomenclature for your youth. So what is going on? Hello, Sherry. How are you doing? Welcome again, everyone. Hey, Raven Wolf, how you doing? So, yeah, I don't know. It's really odd. I saw someone earlier ask about DIA, Denver International. And I think one of the other channels was saying something about that. It's a strange place. I have flown out of, because that's my airport. DIA, if it's been once, I have done it 300 times with no exaggeration, and know that airport really well. And there's some strange stuff in there. There is no doubt about it. You can find so many, I think someone said it once, let's try to find Waldo on this one. There's some strange stuff. Those murals, real bizarre. I think they have now taken those down. But, I can remember, 10 years ago, when they were up and looking at these things and thinking, what the hell was someone thinking? I mean, they were full of symbolism, graphic violence, portrayal of the culling. By the way, shameless endorsement to Celestial Seasonings and their tea. Their Bengal Spice, I'm telling you folks, it'll make you happy, give you happy feet all the way around. So I don't know, is the culling engaged? We're about to go through some documents that, I don't know, when you look at it, you just go, are we just stupid? Again, I refer back to Forrest Gump. Stupid is as stupid does. And I think we are an insane race. We serve insane gods. To serve an insane God, you have to be insane, because no sane person would do it. You know, I think I'm going to go back to 1969 and get on the magical mystery bus, or the Yellow Submarine, one of the two, because I definitely think the blue meanies have taken over. And when you see about, these rumors of people in government offices working for the government involved in calling on demigods, ancient demigods, what the hell are people thinking? It leads to that question: is the United States heading for a civil war? I think ideology, we're already there. The question is, how far will it be allowed to go? I don't know. Interesting. You have to admit, folks. Gary, yep. But something's going on. More and more reports I heard, and there is a viewer, subscriber, who I know, who's emailed me about Sunspot, New Mexico. Now, I have heard, and nothing to confirm this, but they think it was potentially a hazmat chemical situation. Did someone send something in the mail that would include the post office and the subsequent observatory? Who knows? A lot of rumors going out there that the Armada is here. It's been here. I jokingly said that yesterday that at some point in time they're going to show up. Again, I get this image of the Hitchhiker Guide to the Galaxy, the Vorgon. They're everywhere. We just can't see them. And they're going to pull the switch on us, and then we're going to go, holy crap, So let's have another sip of tea and, await for the Big Bang. I was listening to Corey Goad a minute ago, and that the whole talk of 2012 and the solar flash that was supposed to take place. And I recall, and I don't know how many of you have not ever checked out her videos, but Yellow Rose for Texas. Go back and look at her early stuff. It's quite remarkable, because I think that in so many ways she was spot on, that there was, and I think still is, this galactic war, although I have not seen from Sochi, they don't show those anymore. They've got it blocked off. We don't see the parachute bombs coming in anymore. And we all knew back then when we were watching those that there was something going on. Something the camera was picking up, the positive, negative ion picture. We knew that there was mass to this. There was light, and we knew it was a war. Boy, I mean, we took some crap back in those days. It's when I was working with Steve Olson. I mean, it because it was hard to fathom. And I quite frankly think that the engineers that were processing the slides that came in, they were just as fascinated as we were. And, whoever it was, I guess at that time allowed a lot of that to get out. Fortunately, a lot of it was recorded. I have a lot of it. And we now go, in fact, Monday night with our physicist, we're going to really get back and do some closer examination of early Secchi photographs, along with early Soho. There was a lot that was being witnessed, and I still say it's phenomenal when you look back at Comet McNaught. That was a strange comet, folks. We haven't seen another one like that, and that one was off the scale in its effects. So a lot going on there. So check it out. A lot of good stuff out there, and I just encourage you to definitely take a look at it. So I want to get into what the takeover, AI. If any of you have ever been involved where there was a corporate takeover of a company that was acquired by another one, hostile takeover, the famous line I love that's always saying is that this is not a negotiation, this is a notification. So when I look at AI, and now it's recognized, in fact, the creators of AI are even afraid now. What have we unleashed? So let's just take a gander on a couple of things. Now, this is from wakeupworld.com. Go over there and check it out. You should put those in your browser to check out. So we all know about fluoride, right? We know that only in the United States do they still do it. The thing was tooth decay. And the story goes that Rockefeller was behind this. And if any of you remember the movie Peter Sellers was in, the name escapes me, I'll think of it. The general that went off the edge, his whole thing was that they're poisoning our children, putting fluoride in the water. Well, they knew, and it's good reason. It's a neurotoxin and an endocrine disruptor. It can harm the thyroid gland. That's why we see a lot of bizarre cancers, and calcifies the pineal gland. I wonder why. I think that we are immersed and have been in a cosmic wave. I think it's intensifying. And it seems, just to a casual observer, everything they're feeding us, everything they're forcing us, everything that we're drinking is to diminish the pineal gland. Why? Goes on to say, as you see, it's so toxic that several countries have banned water fluoridation. And now, fortunately, there are some cities that are finally catching on. You know why? Because the city fathers realized they couldn't immune themselves. Chlorine has a disinfectant properties that make it useful for cleaning products and swimming pools. It's even used in sanitized sewage and industrial waste. Chlorine is added to drinking water as, a purification technique, despite not being completely safe. Chlorine. Back when I was developing systems, we were developing a first responder hazmat software system. Chlorine is nasty, nasty stuff, even highly diluted. And this is a fact because I lived in the city. I lived in Nashville, back in the late 80s, excuse me, and their water was so chlorinated, it actually would burn your face. And I couldn't drink it. It was it was terrible. Now, lead, we've all known that is a main toxin causing problems in Flint. Corroded pipes are releasing up to 10 times the allowable amount of lead into the water. Lead is toxic to almost every organ and it accumulates, and the effects in children are worse. Developmental issues, stunts growth, deafness, behavioral problems, learning disabilities, and brain damage can all result from exposure to lead. If ingesting during pregnancy, lead can cause premature birth. Lead exposure has even been linked to autism, prostate cancer, and reproductive problems for both men and women. It's damaging to the cardiovascular system and kidneys too. And here's the thing. The thing in the United States is that our infrastructure is crumbling. We have not reinvested into it. Many of these in cities in the Northeast, these go back over 150 years ago. And I can tell you back then, they were not aware so much of lead. Maybe they were, but it was like, who cares? And now we're paying the price for it. Mercury, here's one. Although mercury is a natural occurring element, natural does not mean it's safe. We know that. Mercury is extremely toxic and can cause brain damage, blindness, nerve damage, cognitive disability, impaired to motor functions, headaches, weakness, muscle apathy, tremors, mood swings, memory loss, and skin rashes. A byproduct of mining and industrial practices, mercury vapor can linger in the atmosphere and ride the winds halfway around the globe. Which brings us to the point. In Central America, as in Africa as well, and probably other places up in the Klondike and other, hopefully they don't do that, but that's how they separate the gold. Mercury. Excuse me, folks. My throat is very dry today. Because yesterday, our humidity, excuse me, was 4%. Yeah. 4%. PCBs, polyclonal biolithals, are chemicals used for industrial purposes such as insulation, machinery, oil, paints, adhesives, electronics, and fluorescent lights. Excuse me, they were banned in 1979, but guess what? The landfills. We're finding here in the Denver area these huge potholes that are opening up. Well, I guess they forgot to tell the guys building the roads because it's on top of a landfill. And this, in fact, I'm going to do an expose on this because I had a very, very close friend when I lived in Knoxville, whose dad was a pioneer in alerting government officials, environmental groups, etc., of this future bomb, this bio bomb that these landfills, prior to, particularly I think all the way through the 80s, but when you look at the industrial aspect of it, 40s, 50s, 60s, they were not environmentally conscious. And as a result, and particularly when you look in heavily urbanized areas where they did this practice for decades in New York City, was that they would get barges and simply go out into the ocean and dump the trash. As you got more inland, cities began to build landfills. We're never really conscious of this, and as a result, this is now seeping into and leaching into the water tables. And we know this because of the animals. When I lived in Knoxville, which was right next door to Oak Ridge, and it was quite a shock to me when I found this out. I worked at a place in Clinton, Tennessee, and I got to know a lot of the local people, and a lot of the people out there hunted. And I didn't realize this. I was talking to one of the guys, Tommy, I still remember his name. When he would kill a deer, they would have to bring it in and have it tested for how much radioactivity, isotopes, was in the deer. Well, come to find out, back in the Manhattan Project, and this is, by the way, where Einstein lived, right there in Oak Ridge, they didn't have the knowledge of what contamination meant. And they apparently contaminated a lot of equipment. What did they go and do? They went out into the hills there surrounding Oak Ridge and buried this radioactive contaminated material. And even when I lived there, they were still finding areas that were hot. So when I read articles like this and see these points, doesn't surprise me one bit. Arsenic, as we all know that it is poisonous, is still used in multiple industrial processes. And what I like what this article is doing, it's not so much today, but it's what they did yesterday that's affecting our tomorrow. Arsenic, despite being poisonous again, look what it's used for. We know it was improperly disposed of wrong, or from poorly planned wells that hit a natural source. Arsenic poisoning can cause vomiting, abdominal pain, diarrhea, and even death in severe cases. Long-term exposure can lead to skin cancer, lung cancer, bladder cancer. I think you understand. In Taiwan, arsenic causes black foot disease, a type of gangrene that causes blood vessels to die and rot. Yeah. Woo! Perchlorates are a key ingredient in rocket fuel and explosives. Now, people think, well, Wayne, you don't live anywhere where they're making rocket fuel or explosives. Well, actually, here, if you live in the Mountain West, hold on. They dissolve easily and seep into the groundwater from military industrial sites. It's believed that the perchlorates have contaminated much of the Colorado River. The problem is severe. Almost all humans will test positive for perchlorates, I think I'm saying that right, which attack the thyroid. Wow. Thyroid cancer. Thyroids that set off other cancers. Dioxins. Dioxins are released during combustion, such as burning of hazardous waste, forest fires, cigarette smoke, burning oil and coal. They settle into the environment and destroy the water sources. Short-term exposure can cause lesions, respiratory problems. Long-term exposure can affect the immune, nervous, endocrine, and reproductive systems. So one of the things I know about dioxins, when I lived in St. Louis, there was a community called Times Beach. And I actually knew, I was in construction then. And we actually knew a guy that lived there with his family. They had a trailer. It was right off of the, one of the rivers, I think the Merrimack. And we would pick this guy up, and I remember seeing these oil trucks coming in there and spraying this oil on the dust roads, because the roads were not paved and the dust was always up. Never occurred to us what was going on. And I guess it was about a year and a half later, they started seeing kids coming down with bizarre cancers. And then it started in the adults. And of course, they literally had to shut the whole town down. DDTs, another one. This was a problem. They was used in insecticides, very much used in the Vietnam War to combat insect-borne diseases like malaria and typhus. It was widespread use in agriculture insecticide until it was banned in the United States in 1972 due to environmental concerns. It remains in use in parts of the world and still a major health concern. And again, remember, folks, this stuff that was used for decades, it still gets into the soil. I once heard it said that, not 1 gram of gold has ever, well, and actually I think that would be wrong. I was thinking about that. They said all the gold that's ever been mined is still here. That's not true. We've sent a lot of that gold out into outer space, even in our own. HCBs, hexachlorobenzene, was used as a pesticide. Production has been banned. But again, you can see this was widely used in our agriculture. What you spray is what you're going to be eating. Dacthal, or DCPA, is a herbicide that contaminates soil and water sources like HBA and DDT. And the thing about it is today, they still use these herbicides. I can make the comment that how in the world do they allow Bayer and Monsanto to merge? Figure that one out. We are. So here is just one. So let's go over here and let's talk about drug safety and media shaped by big pharma. In this article, we look at the ghost in the machine, the murderous forces in our healthcare system that harm patients instead of helping them. This article will expose the deceptions that occur in almost all facets of healthcare today for no reason other than money. It will also expose the identities of the ghost puppet masters who perpetrate health misinformation and unethical drug marketing for profit, whether it's big pharma or its helpers in academia, government, and non-government agencies. Folks, this thing is going to piss you off. I'm just going to tell you right now as you read it. It should be no surprise in most cases, promotion of dangerous drugs and misleading health information is a direct result of conflicts of interest. For example, with the exception of CBS, and I think this has recently changed, every major U.S. media outlet keeps at least one person from the drug industry on its board, which clearly explains the dearth of reporting on pharma dangers and corruption. The drug industry also spends billions a year on TV ads. Revenue from just 9 prescription drugs was worth $100 million a year, which also stifles negative news stories about pharma. And by the way, the new batch of diabetes drugs, and there's only, I think there's 6 of them, they're estimated to return to the companies $7.8 billion. Yeah, how free are we? Even the so-called public media, PBS, NPR, have accepted money from GlaxoSmithKline. They were a client of mine, particularly before they had merged with Klein. It was Glaxo. And United Healthcare. Similar conflicts of interest exist at medical journals, universities, medical associations, advocacy groups, and government agencies, including those that are supposed to regulate the drug industry. The result is the ghost in the machine that we live with today. Deceive patients taking expensive, often dangerous drugs and soaring health costs. Here's what really gets to you. One of the most damaging conflicts of interest is the revolving door between industry and government. It allows the worst forms of cronyism, quid pro quo arrangements, and approval of dangerous drugs. Both Robert Claliff, former Food and Drug Administration commissioner, and Scott Goldblatt, the current FDA commissioner, are shining examples of the conflict of interest. Before his appointment by President Obama in 2015, Califf received money from 23 different drug companies, including giants like Johnson & Johnson, Lilly, Merck, Schering-Plough, GCX. According to a disclosure statement on the website of Duke Clinical Research Institute, he even praised the involvement of pharma in government affairs. Goldblatt was named FDA commissioner this year by President Trump. Despite his high-profile work as a pharma consultant and stock trader. How convenient. While serving as FDA Deputy Commissioner for Medical and Scientific Affairs before becoming commissioner, Goldblatt had to recuse himself from work related to 9 drug companies, including Roche, Sandoff, Aventis, Eli Lilly, and Procter & Gamble because of his financial links. That's letting the fox guard the hen house. Another example of the revolving door between government and industry is former director of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Julie Gerberding, who left the agency in 2009, where she had overseen vaccine decisions, to head Merck's vaccine division. In 2015, she sold 38,368 shares of her Merck stock, valued at $2 million. Thomas Insel, former director of the National Institute of Mental Health, also used the revolving door, leaving government for industry in 2015. How convenient. And let's not forget Texas Governor Rick Perry, who mandated that all girls in Texas be vaccinated against their will with Gardasil, an HPV vaccine made by Merck, after his former chief of staff became a Merck lobbyist. Stipends from industry to governments also skew drug messages. Gilead Sciences, an aggressive marketer of hepatitis C drugs, likely earned the right to add to the CDC's name to its ads because of its gift to the CDC Foundation. This goes on to talk about academia. Academia was once a source of unbiased drug and health information, untainted by Big Pharma and Big Pharma's money. Not anymore. Universities now have a renewed interest in partnering with pharmaceutical companies, are investing resources to ensure successful collaborations. This is how Dr. Terence Norchie, president and CEO of Arx Therapeutics, explains the profitable new partnerships. For the past 15 years, the pipelines of big drug companies have been drying up. At the same time, there is tremendous amount of pressure on academic institutions in this country and abroad. To survey, many universities will have to find creative ways to make themselves more relevant. There are opportunities and mutually solve these challenges between academia and industry. You know, listen, if you're taking money from someone, guess who you're beholden to that someone? Such pharma and academic partnerships date back to the Bayh-Dole Act of 1980, which allowed universities to patent discoveries that stem from government-funded research and then license them exclusively to companies in return for royalties. Yeah. And it's replete with more people that they're sleeping with both sides at the same time. Now, it goes on to talk about drug trials. The faster farmer can get a drug to market, more money it makes, even if safety problems emerge later. Have any of you listened to any of the drug commercials that are on? And it's just not on television, it's everywhere. They're going to be showing up in cinemas if they already have it. Now, when you hear these ads, when they list the side effects, a sane person would go, why would you take that? I like the ones that say, death may even occur. Wait a minute, I thought I was taking this thing so it would cure me. No, it never cures you. It just covers the symptoms. No drug is actually out there to cure you. So, legal settlements from injury suits are simply built into the cost of the product launch and marketing. Gag orders with injured parties keep the dangerous side effects from reaching the public and dampening sales. There are many examples of drugs rushed to the market before they were proven safe, such as the painkiller Vioxx, estimated to have killed over 60,000 people, and the new expensive hepatitis C drug that were marked before their ability to reactivate pre-existing hepatitis B. Folks, seriously. Now, here's one I bet no one realized. I didn't know this. One way in which dangerous drugs are now rushed to market is the fastest work of contract research organizations, CROs, to which pharma increasingly outsources drug trials. CROs conduct drug trial design, recruitment, enrollment, and consent of subjects, as well as preparation for the final drug submission package to the FDA in turnkey operations. If and when the new drug is approved, they will also take care of the marketing and branding. Incestuous little group, isn't it? This goes on, and I'll make these available by link. You can go, like, again, to the website. I'll make sure to leave the link in it. So when we started, and this is the one that got me, nonprofits organizations push the pharma agenda. Recently, this guy wrote that the philanthropist Bill Gates was leading the pack as one of the most destructive do-gooders on the planet, and that his views on addressing poverty and disease in poor countries were short-sighted and misinformed. Why? Because Bill and Melinda Gates, founder of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, is one of the world's foremost pioneers of mass vaccination efforts, with a major part in the pharma agenda. By the way, I want to say something here. Those of you who are getting your DNA tested, make sure you read the fine print. 123 and me, or whatever the one is actually, the founder of it is one of the founders of Google. Guess what she's doing with the information that you give to them? She's selling it to big pharma. It goes on to say how it's into the GMO crops. It's everywhere. It's all about money. There is one study that basically puts a price, dollar number, on every newborn. Already in the actuaries, they can look at it and they know how much. Are these diseases genetic? Are they genetically somehow modified through what we're consuming? Do they know these things? I mean, I don't know. Makes me very upset. Okay, let's take one more. Corporate takeover of organic food. Again, this is at wakeup-world.com. When did the Organic Trade Association, why did the Organic Trade Association, which says its mission is to promote and protect organic, support measures against GMO labeling? Why is the OTA increasingly succumbing to influential corporate members that seemingly do not belong? This article goes on to talk about the fact that there is, again, this nefarious, and that's the only thing you can say when you read this article. It is nefarious as to what is going on here. And you look at these international multi-conglomerate corporations. I mean, I have a question. Are they the demigods of old? Because the other two articles I have here, I want to make sure I pull them up. It seems very clear by reading different industries, different agendas, or so we thought, they all seem to be focused in on the same agenda. And that's to enslave you and I. If they get us in the water, they get us with the air, they get us with the food we eat, they get us with the drugs of the disease that they gave us. Great song by Quicksilver Messenger Service. What you going to do about me? Check it out. Listen to the lyrics. You know, one of the lines in there says, the cause of my kids' disease is the food that you fed them. It's something like that. Check it out. All right. There is something called the Dark Act, and I want to get in there. Yes, deny Americans the right to know. Some of nature's past discontent with OTA started in the 1990s. Stevens once served on OTA's board of directors, but resigned when he felt the organization was not doing enough to combat GMOs. Indeed, in 2016, OTA seemingly sold out and supported House Resolution 1599, a bill colloquially known as the Dark Act, deny Americans the right to know. It revokes states' right to impose mandatory labeling of GMOs, making Vermont's state law of mandatory GMO labeling, which had taken effect in July 1st, 2016, null and void. Ladies and gentlemen, if you live in America, you need to do the work. Pull it up. Look at this bill that was passed. Again, deny Americans the right to know. There is no freedom. None. It's an illusion. Because they're not going to let us know. And if it is ever known, the disinformation group immediately starts in, most of it's AI now, and we'll never know. We'll never know. We could be looking at the absolute proof that we want, but we'll never know. In its place, the federal law replaces clear GMO labeling and quick responses QR codes, which, when scanned with your smartphone, will bring you to the company's website where you may or may not find the information about the presence of genetically engineered ingredients. The companies that convinced the OTA to support the DARK Act and its current iteration are non-organic junk food brands that happen to own organic brands. Their main concern is not protecting organics, but rather exploiting the organic niche while continuing to peddle their GMO-laden wares. Yeah. Isn't this wonderful? And this goes on quite a bit here. All right, let's continue our little journey. We have reached the stage of AI building AI. Our AI robots, machines, are creating child AI robot machines. How will humanity control children AI when humans didn't create them? Have we almost already lost control? AI building AI is the next phase humanity appears to be going through in its technological evolution. We are at the point where corporations are designing artificial intelligent machines, robots, and programs to make child AI machines, robots, and programs. In other words, we have AI building AI. While some praise this development and point out the benefits, the fact that AI is now smarter than humanity in some areas and thus can supposedly better design AI than humans, there is a serious consequence to all this. Humanity is becoming further removed from the design process and therefore has less control. We have now reached a watershed moment with AI building AI better than humans can. If AI builds a child, AI which outperforms, outsmarts, and overpowers humanity, what happens if we want to modify it or shut it down, but can't? After all, we didn't design it. So how can we be 100% sure there won't be unintended consequences? And how can we be sure we can 100% directly control it? I postulate, and there's others here, philosophers and thinkers of myself, that there's now two species on this planet. We used to be the dominant, the Homo sapiens sapiens. I think we could say now, if transhumanism is a reality and is now advanced to this point, then we can say that we have another species competing on this planet. AI building AI. Child AI outperforms all other computer systems in a task. Google Brain researchers announced in May 2017 that they had created AutoML, an AI which can build children AIs. The ML in AutoML stands for machine learning, as this article from Google's AI built its own AI that outperforms any made by humans, reveals AutoML created a child AI called NASNet, which outperformed all other computer systems in its task of object recognition. You guys, did you know this? Are you aware of this? Yeah. The Google researchers, it is written, automated the design of machine learning models using an approach called reinforcement learning. AutoML acts as a controller neural network that develops a child AI network for a specific task. For this particular child AI, which the researchers called NASNet, the task was recognizing objects, people, cars, traffic lights, handbags, backpacks, etc., in a video in real time. AutoML would evaluate NASNet's performance and use that information to improve its child AI. repeating the process thousands of times. When tested on the ImageNet, image classification, and COCO objects detection datasets, which the Google researchers call the two of the most respected large-scale academic datasets in computer vision, NASET outperformed all other computer vision systems. According to the researcher, NASET was 82.7% accurate at predicting images on ImageNet's validation set. This is a 1.2% better than any previous published results, and the system is also 4% more efficient, with a 43.1% mean average precision, or what we call the MPAP. With AutoML, Google is building algorithms that analyze the development of other algorithms to learn which methods are successful and which are not. This machine learning, a significant trend in AI research, is like learning to learn, or meta-learning. We are entering a future where computers will invent algorithms to solve problems faster than we can, and humanity will be further and further removed from the whole process. Yeah. It gets even more disturbing. We're getting close to running out of time here. Again, leave the links on this. You need to read it. It's alarming. Because there is a thought, dear friends, we're no longer in control. AI entertains us. It stimulates us. It gives us pleasure. I don't know if you're seeing the trend in it. It tells you how quickly the collapse can take place is the fact that robotic brothels are now more popular than the brothels themselves. One of the workers was quoted as saying, and I guess she would know, I mean, she was in that environment. She said, this is what scared her. There's no limits. AI will indulge the sickest fantasy or the most bizarre fantasy. And I can't say what's sick or not because I don't have the right of the privilege of saying that. But this is what's happening. When AI can begin to, let's say, substitute the whole basis of what humanity enjoys, yeah, that gets pretty freaky when you start thinking about this. This is another one. We can get into this. Artificial intelligence to the Manhattan Project. This is another one that's just going to, yeah. So anyway, just thought I'd share those with you. Freaky, isn't it? And I've got over a dozen others of these. I mean, go to the website. You can go there and expand your mind as well as I can. And it's a snapshot. It's a tapestry. I kid you not. Look at what's happening to us. And I tell you, when I was a rock and roller back in the days, I looked at my elders with a certain disdain. All youth do. We thought that we definitely were much more hipper. I don't know. I think every generation has its own definition. But I know this. We didn't have computers. We had television, so the programming was already underway. But a client of mine, Milton Berle, back in the day, we did an exclusive video distribution deal with Milton. Had the opportunity to talk with him. And Milton Berle was, vaudeville back in the day with the Marx Brothers, pioneers in television. And I remember we were sitting around having martinis, and he was recanting, and it was great listening to these people. I mean, he knew them all. And, you know, I used to ask him, I said, you know, when you're on the Jack Parr show, when it was the first evening talk show, and I said, what did you think about this? I said, you had your whole show, the Texaco Hour. And he looked at me and he says, you know, Wayne, he said, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. He said, but it was the strangest thing. He said, all of us had been exposed to Hollywood. We were all in films and we knew how to take directions from the director. And he said, and it was very well understood that you play to the camera. But he said the damnedest thing was about live television, and it was live back in those days. He said it was like something just came over us. He said it was like we were suddenly inside the very things that we were doing. And I thought that was really interesting. When I met Jerry Lewis, Jerry Lewis was responsible for shortening the process of doing films. He was the first one to actually set up an old kinescope video camera besides the large 35 millimeter film cameras, and he would go and use the video to look at the takes and then send that down to the cutting rooms. Anyway, there we go. Probably was sharing more than what most of you would probably even care to hear about. But anyway, it goes to show that today it's a different place, and there's no doubt about it. Just by what I just read today is enough to alarm all of us, no matter what we think. It's weird. So anyway, there we go. Yeah. Actually, I met Tom Cruise as well. Actually was involved in the film industry in Tennessee and was there in Memphis when they were shooting The Firm. So anyway, all right, folks. Well, tonight, well, Warren, I don't know that. Now, come on, listen, you can't say that, and you know that's intellectually being dishonest. I'm going to call you out on that, dude. In fact, folks, I don't appreciate that. So that's it. That's your first warning, Warren. Don't do that stuff again. I don't like it. This is not a channel for that. There are other channels where you can express your opinions in that area, but it's not appropriate and it's not acceptable in here. And Sherry, if you see that, if you see something like that again, put him in timeout. All right, hate to have to do that. You know, why is it that people come in and want to respond with such negative energy? You know, that's just, we've got a lot to learn, and it shows you just how much some others have much more to learn. All right, folks, tune in tonight. Got Karen, Queen of Quartz. We're going to do the, even if we have to even just simply have her beautiful face up there or some quartz on there, we'll definitely get that. Hi, Brian. How you doing, my friend? So be good to yourself. See you tonight. Enjoy the day. It is summertime here in Denver, and I have a sense that the weather's going to turn like that on us. I'm glad to see that this hurricane, although it's impacting, but it's not as bad as they were. The beginning of this week, you would have thought that the freaking apocalypse was coming. You know, Category 5 hitting, and it's going to stay for a whole 7-8 days. Didn't happen anything. Hey, folks, I appreciate you all. Monday, we're going to get right back to Worlds Colliding. I'm going to do like we had, I talked about. We're going to do a condensed so we can get by the chapters and not have to read the whole chapter, but we'll get enough of the chapter to get the flavor and the taste. All right, folks, see you tonight. Be good to yourselves, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.